All right, sorry about that, guys. Had some technical issues, needed to reboot the computer because Camtasia likes to act up sometimes. So we should be loaded. I'll get just a couple minutes to get everybody in since they were in. Then we're having to restart all that. So before I get into this, want to let you guys know profitpilot.com is the website where you can find out more information about me. And I got to say, this last newsletter that I was writing about volatility really worked out. We had a really good trade with that and definitely saw it coming. We had two entries on it, so you can see those were the alerts. And yeah, this is how I communicate to the subscribers, and I'd say it works pretty well. But yeah, we had a pretty good time with it, and right now we're actually fading the UVXY. So that's kind of a fun one, because the UVXY is a perpetually declining stock. I think I think we're good with audio. I think everybody can hear me. So, beyond that, the UVXY is really good right now since we are in some very volatile times, and I do think that the market is going to roll over at some point. And so, keep your eye on the UVXY. That is going to be the place to be to make some quick, nice trades on that. All right, so let me dive into the markets, and we'll get this thing up and running and see. Let's figure out which one actually wants to be up. There we go. And then we'll go here because I want to show you guys some of the lower time frame charts to start with. So if we just even look at the futures coming in through here, and the futures, you can see a little bit more underneath the surface of what's going on. And from that low, we've had a double bottom, and that's actually worked out pretty well so far. And over here, you can see that on the 15-minute time frame, the Moxie indicator has stayed positive. So I'm looking at that and using that as kind of the guide. And then more closely, we can see we just had price bounce off the 15-minute 50 and, some other things. I don't typically run Fibonacci's, but, we had this. I just thought maybe I'll give this a try and see what it's going to do. So from the peak to the trough, we get a nice 50% retracement right to about here. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we ultimately go before rolling over. So just kind of a thought, and we'll see if it actually gets there. It might get close, we never quite know for sure. But I think we are going to get past the daily 200. I don't really see that as resistance. And I think that we're probably going to get somewhere over the daily 8 EMA. Now, if we look at that from the S&P, the SPY perspective, kind of making some drawings, and I also did the same thing. I did that Fibonacci retracement, and kind of comes into some area. Let's see. So on the hourly chart, that brings us to a little over the hourly 50, which I think is possible. I might get a little nervous as it approaches the hourly 50, but we have seen here how price can get a pretty good move to the upside and actually push past the hourly 50. So that 50% retracement might take us to 450. I think that's reasonable. And right now we do see the market holding up right in front of the FOMC. So we do have the FOMC this afternoon, and I'm sure they're going to try and be a little bit dovish and try and say nice things to sweet talk the market. We do know that interest rates are going to be going up at some point. We know that, and I probably, from what I've been hearing and understand, as long as they don't say they want to raise interest rates now, they're still going to stick to the March thing, but they're going to be accommodative and all that kind of stuff. Then I think the market's going to kind of be okay with that and continue on the direction of where we are today. Now, maybe this only goes for 2 more days. If we look at the past, you can see price went up over the hourly 50 and then started to roll over again. So I don't think this is going to last too long to the upside. I just think we're going to get a nice move up there, one or 2 days, and then I'm back to the short side. And if you want to see what the NASDAQ looks like, more or less the same thing. You can see that the NASDAQ has actually tested the 15-minute 50, so good. And then the other thing is we can see the elf shoe in full action on both the S&P and the NASDAQ. So we got the leg, we got the heel, we got the arch of the foot, ball of the foot, and we are working on that elf toe right now. And same thing, we'll see if it can go to the hourly 50 or so. It's just, I think we need to go up because this market is so oversold. I mean, look at this on the daily time frame. We are still away from the daily 8 EMA. Like are still too far away. So I think just from how price works, I think we need to get back to something like that around the 8 EMA, probably maybe a little bit higher. But you can see right there, the hourly 50 is just over the daily 8 EMA. So it could be a situation like that where we get a little momentum to the upside. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm guessing that the market's just not going to move for the rest of the day until the FOMC comes out. We had a nice move up, a little pullback into support, kind of came back up. Now it's neutral, and the markets tend to just freeze as they await the expectation of whatever the news with the FOMC is going to be. So that's kind of where we're at. And if we look at the IWM, and then I see a bunch of people tuned in today, so that's great. Uh, write something in the chat. Let me know if you want to look at anything, because basically I'm looking to short the bounce. And look at this, even the IWM, look what it did. It's up here at the hourly 50. Now we know the IWM is the weakest of all the indexes. All right, so any kind of move up, I think, is a shorting opportunity. The question is just how far up does it go before it rolls over? And the UVXY, or the IWM, it can move up a little bit, but ultimately I would be looking for this thing to break on over and come back down. And even the daily chart, you can see, has gotten back to the daily 8 EMA. So, it could just keep, this might be its highest point. Maybe it goes up a little further, but other than that, I think it's going to just continue and resume its downtrend. Jason, good to see you. you gotta love those Facebook notifications when they randomly pop up and say, hey. All right, so mRNA, kind of the same thing with the rest of the market. I think we're going to get a little bit of a bounce, but other than that, I'd say this thing is still in a downtrend. I mean, look at what's happening. A little bit of a bounce into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50, a little bit of a bounce into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50, and I imagine that's going to be a little bit of a bounce into the underside of an hourly 50 as well. So that's basically about it. Yeah, I know things are getting extended to the downside, but they can keep going. Trust me, they can keep going. When people want out, they just get out. It's different than when they're trying to decide if they want to put their money into something like, oh, do we want to get in? Do we want to risk my money? Try and make all that setup. Now, when people want out, they just keep getting out, and especially when institutions are getting out, which is what it looks like this thing is. I mean, this is not good situation for Moderna. All right, and then gold keeps getting talked about. I would agree with this. The thing, let me switch over to there. So we got the weekly, the daily, and the hourly. Now gold, yeah, it's messy. It's not going to be the straightest vehicle here, but I think that generally speaking, I think it will keep going up. I think it's going to appreciate. And what I keep talking about here is on the daily chart. Notice that trampoline move. The Moxie indicator has been above zero for weeks, couple weeks, despite price being below the daily 50. So I think that is the wind behind the back for gold, trying to push this thing up, and it's making progress. So generally speaking, I do think it's going to appreciate. Now, again, not going to be the smoothest vehicle probably, but I do think it's going to kind of hammer out a base here, keep moving up, and generally look strong from there. Now, the one other thing that might help that is I keep looking at the dollar. So the UUP, and I look at this, and it's going to take a little bit of time. Again, maybe not anything until after the FOMC, but I'm kind of wondering if the dollar is going to start rolling over back down here, because I'm seeing that we have the Moxie price triggered to the downside, meaning that momentum is now negative. We've had higher high, but lower high on the Moxie indicator. There's your negative divergence. And I kind of look at price probably getting rejected by the daily 50. And this is not a good pattern on the hourly chart. Price has not tested the hourly 50, and the hourly 50 is still below the hourly 200. So it kind of looks similar to that, where basically the trend for the hourly 200 is in a downtrend, and the 50 is below the 200, so that's a downtrend. And I think this is just a bounce in a downtrend. So I think the dollar is going to go down, and a declining dollar is usually good for precious metals. So yeah, we should see how that goes. All right, let's see. PRT. Yeah, PRT is looking pretty good. Let's see. I don't even know what this thing is. Perm rock, is that oil? I'm assuming, because this kind of looks like oil. Oil is doing well. And you look at this price coming off of the daily 200. We've had our positive divergence on the Moxie indicator. It's looking good here. And some of the really good low down entries. I mean, look how perfect this was. you had your double bottom, you had your positive divergence, and then we had the Moxie price trigger firing, which is right there. And then we got over the hourly 50. The hourly 50 got over the hourly 200. And right there was a trampoline move. Price dipped below the hourly 50, but the Moxie indicator was above zero. That's a trampoline move. So that looks real nice. There have been some wild rides in oil, and but it's making new highs today. And you can see here the weekly looked pretty good. I mean, basically it just did a flag near the weekly to weekly 50. You got squeezes all over the place, and yeah, it's looking good. So if we look at that, I think XLE is one of the other areas. You know, it's up there. Now, the only thing I could say is it's kind of getting up here around the weekly third ATR. That's a little high. You know, maybe price is going to slow down a little bit because it's extended up there. They could use a pullback maybe, but yeah, overall they're making new highs and they're trending and doing well. And I think OIH was another ETF that was actually looking pretty good. And you're looking through here and considering what the market's doing, I mean, hey, right here, look, just kind of flagging, getting ready. I would view this as a trampoline move. Price dipped below the weekly 50, but the Moxie indicator is above zero, so that looks good. And check out this double bottom with positive divergence. That was looking pretty good too. And you want to see where the setup was on this? Right there. There's a trampoline move. Price dipped below the hourly 50, but the Moxie indicator was above zero. It's a trampoline move. So good job on that one. And then I think I forget what I put the X here for. I don't know if it was like, oh, we just buy the dip. But right there, right there, you can see price came down, tested some moving averages for support. You can see it tested the the hourly 200. You know, most everything is in an uptrend. So yeah, stuff like this, oil related, it's looking all right. You know, maybe that's going to be the place to hide out while the market pulls back and starts to correct, which I fully think the market is priming to do. I think we're going to see much lower lows on the market. And just kind of throwing out there, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the market go down 20% ultimately over the next few months. All right, VET. I think that's another oil name. So Al will check that one out. Yeah, I mean, look at these things. Oil doing pretty well. You know, here was a trampoline move on the daily. So price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above zero is a trampoline move. And you can see here, price running into the weekly 21. Another trampoline move, another trampoline move. Yeah, these things are doing pretty well. Now, the only concern that I have, and I would just bring this to your attention, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to go down. It could go sideways. You know, just could calm down for a little bit. But look here, you do have price for VET at the weekly 200. That might be some resistance, and it is pushing outside of that weekly third ATR. A lot of times that just kind of signals that, you know, it's a little too hot, kind of needs to calm down a little bit. I don't know what kind of a pullback there might be with that, but I would say that's not a place I want to initiate a position. But generally speaking, oil is doing well. All right, then INTC Intel. Yeah, it's just not. This is not something I'm going to be really trading. You know, right in through here. Here is the 50-250 maneuver. So you can see that nice little round trip. I guess it did well on earnings. I think it had earnings or at least news about that came out. It was doing okay. I know Microsoft did well, Texas Instruments as far as the response to earnings. But I don't know. I just wouldn't be trading this unless you're going to be short-term trading because, you know, you got the downtrending daily 200. You got a downtrending hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is below zero. And you are running right into the underside of what could become a downtrending weekly 50. So just keep in mind, Al, that I think the rest of the market is going down. And I don't really know if, I wouldn't think that Intel is going to be able to withstand that. Do you think Intel is going to go up if the market goes down? It's kind of my thought. With that, we could say, look at SOXX, which is the semis. And for now, it's been basically a failed breakout. And failed breakouts are definitely possible. I mean, I tried trading this one long, and it didn't work out. So we got in long here, and we got out there. And I'm pretty happy about that because look where it is now. And then, yeah, the big move up. And again, kind of that third ATR thing. See how price is up there? It's like, I'm not so sure about that. You can see price coming down now. It is at the weekly 50. Maybe there's temporary support. You know, daily 200. Maybe there's temporary support. But after that, I don't know. I'm I'm pretty bearish on this market, so I think bounces are going to get sold into. All right, so QFin, you must be in the Moxie group. But yeah, I think QFin, I think this is going to break down too. It's just a matter of time. It's been a bumpy stock. We've had to ride some moves out on this thing, but ultimately, I think this is going to keep going down. You can see here on the weekly chart, the 8 is below the 21. We've got squeezes, which, squeezes don't necessarily pick directions, but the Moxie indicator is below 0. The Moxie indicator here is below 0. The Moxie indicator is again below 0. Price has gotten rejected by the daily 50. The hourly 200 is in a downtrend. So, yeah. And again, I don't think this name is going to go up if the market goes down. So we're short this thing, and I think it's just about to roll over. I think. Imran, good to see you. And QCOM, I know John is either trading it or looking at trading it to the long side. Again, I think any moves to the upside are basically bounces into resistance. So let me be very clear about that. I think if you're going to be trading a bounce like this, fine, but you better be nimble and kind of make sure you get out on the way up. So what I'd be looking at is I wouldn't be surprised to see this continue to go down because, well, price is coming up into a downtrending hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is very much below 0. And here, the Moxie indicator is going below 0. And the only thing holding this up is the weekly 21. And I think any move up is just holding off the inevitable. Look at AMD and look at its weekly 21. I mean, look at that. You get a little bit of a bounce, you know. You held it right there for a few days. You held it right there for a few days, and then price just rolled over. I mean, look at this on the hourly chart. You can see price went up into a downtrending hourly 50, and the Moxie indicator was below 0. So, I was trying to tackle this one too when we thought the market was like still maybe going to go up, and then we got out. But that was right there. That was like your last opportunity to get out before this thing rolled over. And I'm kind of thinking that QCOM is same thing. ZL, we covered gold. So when this thing posts, just go back and look at the beginning. Yeah, Gasan, AMD, you're looking at it here. The semis, they're all going to be doing the same thing. NVIDIA, they're all going to do the same thing. I mean, look at this. You don't want to be in this stuff. There might be a bounce. There might be, price might hang here for a little bit, but I just don't see them really actually being bullish. I just don't see them really having some strength. Maybe bounces, maybe just sideways movement for a little bit, but ultimately I wouldn't be surprised to see these things continue to go down a little bit. Al, any market effects from the Winter Olympics? I don't think so. I don't know why the market would necessarily care about the Winter Olympics. Now, the market might be caring about the little feathers being ruffled with the Ukraine and Russia thing and talk of war. Yeah, that might be some stuff. So you can kind of see that whenever a news piece hits, you can see the market kind of twitch. I think we'll just have to see what developments are there and how much the financial media wants to kind of attribute that to whatever the market's doing. But for those of us who are technicians and trade the market, it doesn't matter what the news is. We see this coming. We see what's happening here, and they just need to ascribe a reason to it or an excuse, and that's why. Let's see, Michael. Can the Moxie indicator show which stocks have good potential to hold overnight? Like buy, call, put options before market close. Yeah. So, Michael, that's actually how I trade. I am an end of day trader, and so since you are asking about holding overnight, that is actually the name of the game for my kind of trading. Is because I decide at the end of the day, do I want to buy in or not? And that's kind of what I'm looking at. And so, yeah, I'm also a swing trader. So I need something that's going to last a few days. I'm trying to think, what was the last good long that we had? XOP, going back to oil, the setup that we took for XOP came off of this trampoline move, just like a lot of the other oil names that I showed you, this hourly trampoline move. I saw that, and then we went in once it confirmed that it wanted to go back up, and there was. That was a really, really good trade for us. And then I got out at the top here because I could see the price was likely to pull back, mostly because there was a gap here between price and the daily 50, and the Moxie indicator was still below 0. Not to mention it was a double top, and we could see the market was looking a little rough. And so I just said, yeah, we're going to take our 20% because we traded a leveraged ETF for that and walked away with that. So pretty happy about that. And yeah, so yeah, overnight, that's exactly how I trade. So absolutely. Just make sure you're looking at the right time frames. I'm not sure I would be trading off of a 5 minute time frame in order to make a decision about holding overnight. I would probably look more at the daily, hourly. Teresa, good to see you. Feel like it's been a little while. Hope you guys are doing well up there, up in Canada. I got some Canadian friends down here in Washington, and we went out snowmobiling a couple weeks ago, and it made me think about you guys and all the snow up there. I tell you, I've never been snowmobiling before. I had a good time, but it is one of the hardest, like just physically demanding motorsports that I've ever tried so far. It was insane. I'm also a total novice, so I got the machine stuck in big snow because we had 4 feet of snow up in the mountains where I was in like northern Seattle doing this stuff, and it was crazy. Like 500-pound machine getting stuck in the snow, it just and you're up at 10,000 feet. You can't breathe too much oxygen up there, and it was just man, a lot of work, so much work, but it was fun. All right, some of the other ones that we're kind of looking at. Let me just show you about Carvana so you guys can see what's happening out there and be aware of what's going on. So here, look at this. Look at what Carvana did. It flagged sideways into the underside of a downtrending daily 50. Look how far below zero the Moxie indicator was on the daily chart. Stuff like this should be very, very clear to see if you're either trying to take a short or if you're trying to make sure that you don't get run over from your long position, stuff like that. And then look here, there's the Moxie price trigger. And you can see price basically rolling off of and falling off of the weekly 50 with the 8 below the 21. There are some pretty clear things happening out there, so just be aware of them. Yeah, and then Amazon, you guys can see the note that I have here. Is Amazon going to head to the weekly 200? I've been seeing a lot of names heading down to their weekly 200, so definitely be careful about that. And one thing I've been talking about with this is, this is the beauty. This is the absolutely beauty of the Moxie indicator. Look at that on the hourly chart. Do you see how long the Moxie indicator has been below zero and just not looking good? I mean, this is really bad. And you can see that right back here was where the hourly 50 crossed below the hourly 200. And then what? You get the 200 now also in a downtrend. I mean, you guys got to pay attention to this if you're getting stuck in some of these trades. If you're long and you're bleeding money and you're stuck on these things, it's really pretty clear, and you need to adjust your trading if that's happening. Now, if you're trying to short, yeah, start looking at this stuff, and the short side is working out pretty well. So I think any kind of bounce, and we're going to be rolling over. So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Oh, Armand, I see any key levels on the SPY. I don't really do levels. I usually just do the moving averages, and so as I said, I think we're going to be moving up just a little bit further. Maybe hourly 50. You could throw some Fibonacci's on there, and it kind of lines up at the same place. So basically, any kind of move to the upside is, I think that's going to be about it. So just a little bit more move up for the end of this week, and I think that's it. So we'll see how this ages, and we will see you next week. And I'm sure we will have a lot more to talk about next week, as there might be some fireworks. All right, guys, you take care. Thanks for tuning in.